Food is one of those things that just brings everyone together, right? It's all about joy, cultural pride, a delicious way to connect. But what happens when it does the exact opposite? In our hyper-connected social media world, food can become a serious point of conflict. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. A surprisingly bitter fight over some incredibly sweet desserts.
So, where did this all kick off? Well, it really exploded in March 2023 because of this one single post. The British ambassador to Cambodia was visiting Thailand and shared this picture. I mean, look at that beautiful platter of sweets. If you're Thai, you know exactly what these are. Luk chip, phoi thong, thong yip, absolute classics. But the caption? Oh, the caption called them Khmer desserts. And boom, just like that, an online firestorm was ignited, and this long-running debate was suddenly front and center for the whole world to see. Okay, so we're looking at what's been called the claiming phenomenon. And let me tell you, this is a real taste of controversy. Now, that ambassador's post, it wasn't just a one-off thing, not at all. It was actually the moment this much bigger trend of cultural claims really hit the spotlight.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Look at how specific these claims are. Take a look at this table. You've got the iconic Thai dessert Top Team Krop. Those amazing little red rubies in coconut milk? Well, it's being presented as Top Team Krop. Or how about the crispy coconut rolls we call Tong Muon? They're being rebranded as Nom Tong Nuon. Even the beloved street food staple, Knom Krok, is being claimed as Nom Kruk. You see the pattern here, right? The names are so similar, just tweaked a little bit.
And you gotta understand, this fight isn't happening in some formal setting like a UNESCO meeting. Not yet anyway. No, this is a full-on digital battle. It's all happening on TikTok, on YouTube. It's all about building a narrative, a story. The goal seems pretty clear. Create this idea of Khmer original to attract tourists and, of course, to build up national pride back home.
All right, so with all this back and forth online, you have to ask, what does the history actually tell us? Let's dig in and unwrap the real origins of these sweets.
And wow, when you look at the Thai historical record, it is deep. This timeline shows it all. I mean, we're talking about the first written mention of a dessert, Knom Tom, all the way back in the Sukhothai era. Then you get to the Ayutthaya era, which was like a golden age for desserts, especially when Portuguese influence arrived. That was so important, it was even written about in a royal poem in the Ratanakosin period, a poem that talks about sweets like phoi thong. And then, the real kicker? In 1908, you get Thailand's very first proper cookbook, Me Krua Hua Pa, which wrote down and standardized so many of these recipes.
And speaking of that Portuguese influence, it's not some vague idea. It's actually tied to a real person. Thao Tong Kip Ma. What a fascinating figure. She was a 17th century woman, part Portuguese, part Japanese, and she worked in the royal court of Ayutthaya. People call her the queen of Thai desserts for a reason. She's the one credited with taking Portuguese recipes, especially their use of egg yolks, and brilliantly adapting them to create those golden desserts like thong yip and phoi tong. The very ones at the center of this whole debate. So when you put it all together, the contrast in evidence is, well, it's pretty stark. The sources we've looked at show that Thai archives mention things like a dedicated dessert market way back in the Ayutthaya kingdom. But on the flip side, when it comes to the Cambodian claims for these specific desserts, equivalent ancient documents just haven't been presented. It's a real case of documented history versus, well, a lack of it.
Okay, so if the history seems pretty clear, what's really going on here? Why are these claims popping up now and with so much passion? Well, as you might have guessed, this is about a whole lot more than just dessert.
And a big part of the why comes down to this: cultural loss. The analysis suggests that what we're seeing is partly a reaction to an absolutely devastating historical trauma. 90%. Just think about that number. During the Khmer Rouge regime, from 75 to 79, it's estimated that 90% of Cambodia's cultural records, its heritage, its traditions, they were systematically wiped out. That left a huge, gaping hole in the country's cultural identity, a wound that, even today, they are desperately trying to heal.
And how do you try to fill a void like that in the modern world? Well, you enter the race for soft power. It's basically a global competition, and claiming popular, world-famous cultural items can be a kind of shortcut. It's a way to influence people through culture, not force. It's a strategy to rebuild that national identity, get tourism booming, and really just make your mark on the world stage.
Okay, now we get to the paradox of learning. Because just when you think you have this story figured out, history, identity, soft power, right? The research throws us a massive, and honestly, pretty ironic curveball. Get this, at the very same time all these claims are being made online, many Cambodians are actually traveling to Thailand specifically to learn how to make these exact desserts. I'm not kidding. While the online arguments are raging, they're signing up for Thai cooking schools. We're talking documented courses, like at Swan Dusit International Culinary School, where Cambodian students are learning to make tong yep, phoi tong, the very sweets at the heart of this entire thing.
I mean, this slide just lays the contradiction out there, plain as day. The claim you see online is, this is an ancient Khmer dessert. But the reality on the ground is, I'm learning this recipe at a Thai culinary school. You just can't make this stuff up.
So, why? Why do this? Well, the reasons are actually super practical. Thailand is seen as the hub, the center of excellence for making these desserts. If you want to learn from the experts, get the proper techniques down, and tap into a proven global market, you go to Thailand. It's really a practical admission that the knowledge and the money-making potential are centered there. It's not just students either. Even Cambodian journalists have come to Thailand on official tours to study how Thai businesses produce and export these sweets.
So, after looking at the claims, the history, and this weird paradox, what's the takeaway? Where do we go from here? Let's wrap this up by looking at what the research concludes and what the future might hold.
Okay, so let's be direct. One of the main analyses we looked at doesn't mince words. Based on the overwhelming historical evidence for Thailand and the lack of it for the counterclaims, it calls this phenomenon a form of cultural theft. That's a strong statement for sure, but it's based on the idea that one side has centuries of written proof and the other, so far, does not. So what's the proposed game plan for Thailand? Well, it's a four-step strategy. First up, protect. This means going for official recognition, like a geographical indication, which basically ties a food to a place, or even UNESCO heritage status. Second, promote. Get the real stories and recipes out there on the world stage. Third, partner. Work with other Southeast Asian nations to celebrate a shared culinary heritage. But, and this is key, always be clear about where things actually came from. And last, publicize. Make sure people are aware of what's happening to protect their own cultural identity.
And that really brings us to the final big question, a question that goes way beyond desserts and affects all of us. In a world where everything is shared online in an instant, where do we draw the line? What's the difference between being inspired by another culture and straight up appropriating it? As ideas and recipes fly across borders faster than ever, how do we celebrate what we share without accidentally erasing where it all came from? That's definitely some food for thought.